Hey everyone, welcome to episode 27 Q&A of the American Justice Podcast. We hope everyone's having a great week. We're a little unconventional this week. Scott, how you doing? All the way on the other side of Dallas.
I'm doing fine. Should we give each other like a air five or a virtual
Yeah,
five?
yeah.
Bam.
Extreme
Well,
close-up. Whoa. Wayne's World reference there.
Wayne's World, Wayne's World.
Oh my goodness.
Just say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh man, that was one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing where he's like, what was it? He's like, I really like you, man. He's like, yeah. He's like, just say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. So
We could talk about Wayne's World like all day.
yeah, we could. So I had to take I haven't been symptomatic, but there was someone in my house that was, and since certain people involved in this little person's life are not the most responsible people in the world, we went ahead, everyone in my household took another COVID-19 test. Luckily, this afternoon, we all found out we were all negative. So now we will be returning to work and he will be returning to school and things will begin to get normal again. So,
Well, I think it's one of those, I mean, we have that at work a lot because, when we're transferring kids in from other hospitals, we have the same thing happen, like they'll call us and say, hey, this kid's having a cough and fever and blah, blah, blah. And we think it's COVID. Well, it turns out it's just like, some kind of pneumonia or some kind of RSV or, it's like everybody, that seems to be the go-to thing now because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
right.
That, if anybody's having any kind of cough or fever or, any of that it's automatically COVID. But luckily, you guys got a negative result, so
Yeah.
move on with life.
Well, I work for a small business, and everyone at that business, we're all kind of like a family, and I love most of them dearly,
Right.
and
Most of them.
I didn't want to be one of those people because I know there's a lot of people out there that probably do this. They know that they've been exposed to it, or they're feeling symptoms or something, or someone in their home is feeling symptoms and they just don't say anything.
Yeah, and they just
go to work anyway. I didn't want to be that dude,
Right.
So I just, and I told you too, hey, we're gonna have to do this through Zoom because just in case, I don't want to give you the Rona, and then you go to work and give all your coworkers and all the children the Rona, and it's I understand. I know a lot of people, especially, I mean, I guess some people do overreact, but I just
I don't think you can,
just in case,
but I also don't think you can be too cautious in this environment either. Like,
right.
That's why when when people talk about us being next to each other, or if you go out to a restaurant or whatever, and you're sitting with the people that it brings up that whole contact tracing that we talked about in one of those other episodes. Because, if I have only been exposed in closed proximity to somebody, if it's only 3 or 4 different people and I happen to just get the coronavirus, then it's easy to go back to those 3 or 4 people and say, hey man, you need to quarantine and get tested.
Right.
And then once you get tested, you can, go back or whatever. So that's a lot different than, walking around Walmart and some guy not wearing a mask and coughing, as he's walking by you or whatever. That's what a lot of people don't understand is what the mask does is when you have the mask on, you're preventing other people from getting,
right.
infected. So you're doing your part. But if you're at Walmart or, any sporting event or anything like that, and you don't have masks on, anybody that you come in close contact with, or even you just walk by or touch shoulders or, somebody, I actually had this happen while I was getting groceries today. I was standing in line and the guy in front of me dropped a quarter. Well, I'm the kind of guy that normally I would bend down and pick it up for him. He was an older guy. But then I had to think to myself, crap, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I can't do that. I can't
right.
pick up his quarter and give it to him. So, it's just being overly cautious, because the last thing that I would want is if I did have coronavirus, even if I wasn't symptomatic, and I reached down and grabbed that quarter and pass it off to him, and then he's, in his 60s or 70s or whatever, and obviously can't fight it as well as a young punk like me, then I would hate to think that I'd be responsible for killing him. So
makes perfect sense.
But yeah, you can't go anytime anyone has, I mean, that's the first thing they ask, is we have to fill out a thing every day when we go into work that says, are you having a fever? Do you have a cough? Do you have congestion? Do you any of these symptoms? And you stay home. Like, there's no, there's no question about it. If you answer yes to any of the, I think there's 6 or 7 questions. If you answer yes to any of those, you're not allowed to come in the building.
No, that's really smart. And, of course you have to take people at their word,
Well.
I mean, but yeah, I do. I work in a very small office with a very small group of people, and I wouldn't want it to, and all of us in the office at one time or another since this all began have been out for about a week, just in case.
Just to quarantine. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That's smart. That's a smart thing to do.
It makes life a little difficult, but yeah, okay. It's a lot better than dying.
Right. We'll get through it. That's what people don't understand is, you may have these little inconveniences or whatever, but as long as everybody stays safe and does the thing that you're talking about, we'll get through it. And, hopefully we can try to convince people that wearing a mask is safe.
Oh yeah. And, I kind of forgot that we are recording this for an audience. Here I am at home, and I'm just all laid back, drinking my Topo Chico and vaping, and at least I have pants on.
The audience thanks you.
Yes. So yeah, we're gonna be a little more laid back than normal tonight. So
plus, we're almost at the end. I mean, it's almost like kick off your shoes and relax in the hotel room type.
Yeah. Right, we're at episode 27. We've jumped the shark. It's
that's right. The only thing we have left is yours and my opinion.
That is true.
And let me give everybody a little taste here. Chad sent his opinion file, the recorded file, over to me a couple days ago, and I listened to it. You guys are not going to want to miss it. This is off the chain, and it's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of crazy stuff, the Redheaded Stepchild of the splatterpunk community has arrived today. I've got a box full of these. This one is actually going out to horror author Chris Miller, who wrote Dust in the Splatter Western series. He's already hit me up wanting a copy of it. It's selling very well. It's jumped in and out of the #1 spot quite a few times. It's very divisive. There is a certain group of people who think this is the most disgusting thing they've ever read. And there is a certain group of people who think this is a best of 2020. So.
Right. I was just thinking, like, the stuff that happens in your book, as, like, it's kind of symbolic of 2020, isn't it?
It really is. It really is, man. It's. Oh, let's see. Let's get on out of here. We got some questions here.
We do have
let's get these going here. Okay, question number 1 comes from Michael in Dallas, Texas. Michael says, Mike Etherington made phone calls to the Woodruff home early in the morning on October 19th using star 67. Is this known from his phone records? Why would he need to make these calls since he knew by then that Dennis and Norma Woodruff were dead and Brandon wasn't there? I wonder what his intentions were for these calls. Were any of these phone calls answered by anyone?
So that's a lot of questions. Thank you. Was it Michael?
Michael.
Mike. Yeah. So that is definitely a lot of information packed into one question. Let me see if I can kind of narrow it down, give you the Reader's Digest version. So yes, it is known from Mike's phone records that he called the star 67. If you look at the records, it actually says, part of it, there's like 3 columns. It's the first column is the number that is assigned to the EISD number, which is the number that's assigned to your phone. So his phone number is the same in all of them, because, basically it's saying that this is his phone. The second column is the number dialed. And then the third column is the number doing the dialing. So if, let's say, for example, somebody called Mike, then the number doing the dialing would be the person that called him. If he's the one that's calling out, then it would be his number in that. So yes, we know that he dialed the star 67 and then the home phone of the Woodruffs. From his phone records. Now, the bigger question is, why did he do it? And he had to have known by this time that Dennis and Norma were dead. And I can't fathom that he didn't know that the police had secured it as a crime scene. Because remember, this is the 19th, this is a day after that the bodies are found. And there's no way, in fact, one of the things that we'll talk about in the wrap-up episode is Mike, when his conversation to me, which was, a year and a half ago or so, the conversation that we had, he said that he didn't even know that Dennis and Norma were dead until the next day or a couple days later. And there's just no way, because let's just take this from a completely innocent perspective. And let's say that he had nothing to do with the crime. There's no way that as soon as Charla found out that she wasn't calling, everybody and telling them what happened. She had to have that woe is me pity party. Everybody needs to know and feel sorry for me. So there's just no way that Norma Etherington and Mike Etherington didn't know that night. So why is he calling the house phone with a star 67? Obviously we can sit here and theorize why he did it.
I have a great theory. Do you remember back then when you used to call people and their answering machine would pick up and you'd be like, hey, if you're there, you can hear me, pick up. Hey. And then, sometimes if they were there, they'd pick up, and maybe it was like, Mom, hey, Mom, if you're there, pick up. Hey, Mom, if you can hear me, pick up. I'm going to Whataburger. You want anything? Hey.
Well, Chad, that would be a fantastic theory, except for the fact that, do you remember in Charla's interview where she started talking about the KKK and home dude and home girl and all that stuff? Well, the reason that she was referring to that and what she was talking about at the time was that she had called the home phone and none of her calls were on the caller ID for the phone.
Right.
So when she went over to the house, she realized that somebody had pulled the phone line out of the wall, and that's why it wasn't registering. So,
okay.
Unless the police did it, you would have to imagine that it was already done that night when they were killed. So I don't think that Mike's calls were actually getting through because the phone line was pulled out of the wall. Which is why I think I have to look at the time on each one, but none of them were over like 10 or 15 seconds. So nobody answered, and that was the reason that nobody answered, because the phone wasn't ringing.
All right, count off 15 seconds. Ready? Count off 15 seconds. Ready? All right, go. Hey, Mom, if you're there, pick up. The boys are coming over tonight, and I can't find my hood. If you know where it is, call me back.
That's 6.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that we brought up. Remember when the state was trying to say that these calls that Brandon was placing that were only like 58 seconds and 47 seconds and all this stuff. They were trying to say that because it was like at a minute or around a minute that that nobody picked up. Well, as you just said, most voicemails only last 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. So if it's a minute long, you have to imagine that, especially when what was going on that night. Remember, all he was doing was just calling people saying, okay, so I'm about to leave. I'll be at Denny's in 15 minutes. All right, bye. So these are all, he wasn't calling people having lengthy, in-depth philosophical conversations.
Right.
He was just calling people saying that he was, giving an update on his time. So the fact that the calls were 47 seconds, 58 seconds, 90 seconds, like to me, that means it's a phone call. If it's, under 30 seconds, then it's like, okay, let's, we can chalk that up to being a voicemail. But anyways, yeah, Michael, if you have a theory as to why Mike Etherington was calling the home phone with a star 67 over and over and over and over and over again, I'd be happy to hear it.
Oh, when you said, okay, Michael, if you had a theory, I thought you were talking to Mike Etherington. What are the chances that Michael asked this question? I thought you were trying to trip him up. Hey, Mike, if you have any idea how this happened, ha-ha.
Aha, gotcha. The only difference is he doesn't live in Dallas, but
people move every day, Scott.
It's true. He could have moved to Dallas yesterday.
All right, Michael from Dallas. Thank you very much for your question. All right, let's move on to question number 2. This comes from Randy in Garland, Texas. Randy asks, or says, and then asks, you said that part of the Court of Appeals decision said it was clearly established that weapon was Brandon's. I thought it was questionable whether or not it was Brandon's dagger.
Well, I mean, if you ask me or anyone that's actually done any research into the case, I would say not only is it questionable, but it's for sure not his weapon. But also remember, as we talked about in the trial episode, one of the trial episodes, Eric Gentry identified that sword because of the way that he was prepped by the district attorney. So they gave him a piece of paper that was 11 inches long and said, "Hey, is this the sword that you saw Brandon have?" And he's thinking to himself, "Well, I said it was 6 inches in the handle, 4 or 5 inches or 6 inches in the blade, 4 or 5 inches in the handle. It's about 11 inches long. Looks good to me." So of course, then when they brought it out at trial and showed him the actual sword, he admitted that it looked a lot bigger than what he thought. So unfortunately, the defense was never able to counteract that, other than just to say, you're changing your story, you're changing, whatever. So there was no, it's like proving a negative. You know what I mean? It's so difficult to prove a negative. Like if I was, let's say you and I had a phone conversation and I hung up the phone and I told my roommate, "Man, Chad just said that I was a dirty son of a bitch. Can you believe he said that?" And then he called you and you're like, "I never said that." Prove you never said it. You know what I mean? It's called proving a negative. And so it's very difficult to discredit the fact that somebody's saying that this is the sword. They're identifying it as the sword. But the fact that Catherine was able to get him to admit, yeah, it looks a lot bigger. And, oh, by the way, the prosecution showed me a picture of that where it was much smaller. I think that was enough to establish that this sword being Brandon's was questionable. Unfortunately, the Court of Criminal Appeals didn't really catch on that. I guess they just saw the testimony from Eric that said, yeah, he identified it. So, they said that, yeah, this is clearly established that it's Brandon's, but I believe clearly it was established that it was not Brandon's.
Yeah, I believe that as well. And there are many people that believe that too. Unfortunately, the people with the robes Yeah.
Well, the biggest, and also remember the biggest thing is that the state theorized that Brandon bought it at medieval times. And we have proven unequivocally that it was not something that came from medieval times. Medieval times themselves said, no, we don't sell anything that has made in China on it. Marcial Contreras, the guy that I tracked down, said, I did not give this to Brandon. I would not give him anything that said made in China. The one that I gave him was much smaller than this, and it said made in Spain, and it had the medieval times logo on it. So I believe that we've been able to prove that that sword was not Brandon's, even if you thought it was the murder weapon, which we've been able to prove it's not the murder weapon either. So.
Right. And I mean, you know, and we've talked about this before. I know this from collecting swords over the years, that Chinese steel is very, very brittle, and it's very cheap, and that's why a lot of replicas use Chinese steel. If you were to take a dagger or a sword or anything made out of Chinese steel and used it as an actual weapon, whether that be to fight somebody with another sword or even stab somebody repeatedly, like what happened inside the Woodruff home, that Chinese steel would have broken.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they're not meant to be used. They're meant to be like hung on a wall.
Right. So,
and not to mention also the check that Brandon wrote to Medieval Times, it was like $124 or something like that, which was the price of 2 general admissions. When I went down and talked to Medieval Times, and I showed them a picture of what it was, and they said, no, that's not it. And then I told them how big it was and all that stuff. They said, look, if you were to buy something like this at our store inside the castle, it's going to run you $200 or $300.
Right.
So there's no way that, you know, which as goes back to what you're saying, that these are not cheap made replicas, you know, that these are the real deal. And I know you can buy these replica swords online for like what, $30 or $40.
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, this kind of sword that big, almost 2 feet long, would be at least $200 or $300.
Yeah, because I've gone to Medieval Times as well. I mean, even during the time frame in which the murders happened, I've gone to Medieval Times and I looked at the big wall of swords that they have, and I'm like, whoa, those are awesome. How much is that? And I'm like, well, you can keep it.
Yeah, some of them are like $1,000 or $2,000.
They're crazy expensive. I mean, it's almost like Scarborough Fair is the same way. It's the real deal, and you're going to pay real deal prices. So,
right. So I think, yeah, we've definitely been able to establish that is not Brandon's sword, even if you think it was a murder weapon. But we've been able to establish it's not the murder weapon either. So the Court of Criminal Appeals just unfortunately didn't catch on it.
All right, Randy from Garland, thank you very much for your question. Thank you for listening as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break here to hear a word from our sponsor, and we will be right back with the second half of the show.
All right.
Central Vapors is the premier online vape store that you've been looking for. If you are currently buying e-juice for e-cigs, you are more than likely spending way too much. You can save money by buying in bulk. No, we're not talking Sam's Club buy it by the gallon bulk. We're talking flavored e-juice in 120, 250, or 500 milliliter bottles. Think about it this way. 8 bottles of 30 milliliter e-juice would cost you anywhere from $100 to over $250. But at Central Vapors, a 250 milliliter bottle is only $28.95. And if you use the code AJARMY, you'll save 50% off your first 3 orders of bulk e-juice. Central Vapors is one of the largest independent retailers of e-cig supplies in the country. They provide all your vaping needs, from e-juice to DIY supplies to pens and custom e-cigs. They even have CBD oil as well. With $2.99 shipping on all orders under $50 and free shipping over $50, you will not be disappointed. Customer satisfaction is always guaranteed. Head on over to centralvapors.com/AJARMY to claim your 50% discount on your first 3 orders of bulk e-juice today. You won't find a deal like that anywhere. Again, that's centralvapors.com/AJARMY.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the American Justice Podcast. We hope you're having a great evening or morning whenever you're deciding to watch this thing. I guess you can't really do that in YouTube videos. Hope you're having a great morning. What if you're somewhere else and it's later in the day?
It's like, I hope you're having a great time, whatever you're doing.
Whatever time it is, wherever you are, we hope you're doing it correctly.
Well, they're listening to us, so hopefully they're having a good time.
Yeah, we're trying our damnedest. Okay, here we go. Question 3. This comes from Bo in San Francisco.
What's up, Bo?
Wait, who was the Bo? Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
And he played baseball. He played like a whole bunch of different sports at once, right?
Right.
Yeah,
kind of like Deion Sanders did.
Yeah, it was like back in the 90s. It was like Bo knows baseball. Bo knows this. Yeah, that was.
Didn't he use that in like product endorsements too, like Bo knows shoes or
right?
Bo knows whatever, yeah.
Bo knows breakfast cereal, something like that. So I couldn't remember who the last baseball team Bo Jackson played for though. I was one. I something pinged off in my brain that said it was San Francisco, and I don't know. Hopefully one of our baseball fans can look that up out there.
Yeah, give us the answer in the comments.
Because it'd be crazy if this was Bo Jackson asking a question.
Is he still alive?
Okay. I think so. I mean, he wasn't that old.
Yeah, that's true.
Bo knows cemeteries.
Bo knows death.
Personally,
that should be the epitaph on his plot. Should say Bo knows death.
If he's already dead, it's a missed opportunity. Seriously. Okay. Question number 3 comes from Bo in San Francisco. Is there a statute of limitations for an investigation into the Hunt County District Attorney's Office? Could they possibly be brought up on charges for violating Brandon's constitutional rights?
Well, the answer to that is no, they cannot. And the reason is that you and I may think that it's criminal to do what they did, but it's actually not. It's not against the law. What they did was not criminal. It wasn't against any statutes or anything like that. It was basically just unethical. It was fraud. It was something that they obviously shouldn't have done. In a normal county, if a district attorney or a assistant district attorney was caught doing something like that, you would think that they would at least be fired, if not referred to the bar. But turns out that this was actually, in fact, one of the reasons that they found Brandon's case was because they found out that they were doing it to another inmate as well. And then they found out that it was not only these 2 inmates, but I mean, it was a systematic process that the district attorney's office was doing. Then they got caught. Who knows if they still do it today, but no, she can't be brought up on charges. However, I have talked to Brandon's current attorney, and he did say that one of the things that he's going to put in his filing when he files the writ of actual innocence is that he's going to recommend to the bar that Judge Kelly Aiken be censored or reprimanded or some kind of disciplinary action in that, it's like in the legal community, however they take care of their own. So she can't be brought up in charges and go to jail or anything like that. But she could still face the wrath of the bar association.
Yeah. Yeah. Referred to the bar in Hunt County means something totally different.
Right.
Somebody told me I should come here because I heard your bartender was pretty.
Well, he sure is. Give him a look.
All right. All right.
Things are progressing in Hunt County, right?
Things are slowly but surely progressing in Hunt County. Now, I can't tell you firsthand. I refuse to live there now, but we'll see.
That bartender sure is pretty. How come she has an Adam's apple?
Wow, man. I've never experienced that in Hunt County, but I did experience that a couple times out in California. So, yeah. Okay. Bo. Maybe Bo knows.
Maybe Bo knows transvestites.
Bo knows transvestites.
I like
Oh
it.
my God. We got to get out.
Maybe they're Tim Curry.
Wow. Happy Halloween. Okay.
Just a sweet transvestite from Transylvania.
Transylvania.
Transsexual Transylvania.
Oh.
We need to watch that movie.
It's on my Voodoo. It's on my Voodoo.
Nice.
Yes. You have my Voodoo password now. So.
We need to. I'll just go ahead and put it up on the screen for everybody.
No. It's bad enough that all my kids and everyone in my office have this sign-on and password.
Yeah.
So
no, we should have like a watching party because I love that movie.
Oh, it's great. It's so good. I'm straight as a board, man, and I love that movie. It's
Oh, when I used to go to like the live performances, it wasn't just, there was a lot of straight people there. It's just one of those things. It's just an environment and a kind of a community where people accepted each other for however they were.
Right.
It didn't matter if you were gay, straight, bi, transgender, black, green, blue, white, whatever. Like everybody was accepted. That's one of the reasons I love going into the live performances.
Yeah, I got a great Rocky Horror story, and it also kind of ties into Hunt County as well.
Okay.
When I first moved to Long Beach, California, I was living with one of my old Army buddies, and he and his other roommate had taken off to Tahoe to go snowboarding for the weekend, and they're like, "Hey man, here's the keys to the apartment. Here's the keys to a vehicle. There's a giant bag of weed in the closet, and we'll see you on Monday." So the next door neighbors came over to meet me, and they were actually the very first lesbian couple I'd ever met in my life, and that was in the year 2001. I never met a lesbian until the year 2001, and that's because I lived in Hunt County.
Right.
All those years. You're either not exposed to them or you are, and they're just scared as hell to come out. So yeah, it was the very first lesbian couple that I ever met. They took me to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show, like the live version of Rocky. Yeah, and that was also the first time that I'd ever saw that movie as well. So that movie has a very special place in my heart now, because there was a lot of awakening that weekend. I will just say.
It's funny because it's like it's like people that watch just the movie and they're like, that was a horrible movie. And I'm like, yes, it was a horrible movie. But wait until you get in front of a live audience or a live, performance. Because I don't know if all of our viewers or listeners know, but what happens is they have like characters up in front of the movie screen on the stage that act out what's going on, and then they yell at the audience, and then the audience yells back. It's full audience participation. Such a good time. But yeah, that's one of the things I loved about that community is it did not matter what your size, shape, religion, anything. You were accepted there. Yeah,
it's a good time. I recommend it for anybody. Like I said, I enjoyed the hell out of it.
And Halloween night is one of the biggest. There's always a performance somewhere. You just got to find it.
Yeah, maybe that's what this coronavirus thing is. They want to make it to where the theaters close down so we all can't have fun at Rocky Horror on Halloween night. It's a conspiracy.
It's a Rocky Horror conspiracy.
All right, so Bo knows transvestites. Thank you very much for your question. Let's see. We have one question left here. Question number 4. This comes from Joanna in Royce City, Texas. Who do we know from Royce City, Scott?
Didn't Joanna write in before?
I think she might have.
All right, we got to repeat. I love it when we get repeat listeners giving more questions.
But this is Royce City, the place where it all began.
The epicenter, as most would say.
All right. Does anyone know the whereabouts of Mike Etherington today? By any chance, did he pursue a career in acting, or was he just displaying limited interest in the arts during this trial only? Joanna is throwing shade.
Yes, that was definitely some shade being thrown. I don't know that Mike was really displaying that good of acting skills at the time.
Horrible.
Yeah, it was kind of like we can see through him right now. The fact that Ranger Collins couldn't see through it, I don't think it was due to Mike's acting ability. I think it was just the fact that Ranger Collins already had his man. And I mean, like I've said this before in other episodes, unless somebody came in and threw a bloody knife down on Ranger Collins' desk, he was not going to believe that it was anybody other than Brandon. So, so when he interviewed Mike the day after, and Mike did all these things that we all know now that was shady and inculpatory, that showed that he was, that leaned towards showing that he was part of the crime, the missing computer and all that stuff. I just don't, I don't, obviously I don't chalk it up to such good acting ability, but I think it was just one-sidedness from Ranger Collins. And where he is now, yes, we know where he is, but he does not live in Dallas. He's not Michael from Dallas. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I could say about, where he lives and what kind of business he has, right, and all that kind of stuff, but we're not gonna, we're still, I'm trying to let Mike know, if he does ever watch any of these episodes, that, that olive branch to come on the show and explain yourself and, let us know how all of these things that kind of look suspicious are not suspicious, and how they were completely innocent, and all of that stuff. That invitation is still active and still available. But I'm just, I'm also just not the kind of person that's going to try to call out somebody's, business and try to hurt their business, right, or anything like that. So
yeah, it's not like Google's free and in your pocket or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though, after next week's episode, anybody that, knows Mike or is doing business with Mike or does any kind of research on Mike's name, will probably find this podcast, and they may not do business with him anymore after what I have to say next week. But I'm just laying it out there, man. I'm just putting it out. I'm just, the truth is the truth, no matter whose truth it is.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that my explanation for the whole thing is going to be truth. Perhaps it's an overactive imagination, but it is what it is.
I mean, let me just put it this way. As I said earlier in the episode, I've heard it, I listened to it, and you are not the first person to have these theories. So
really? Okay, well, I feel better now.
And I think it's interesting. People are really going to have to check it out, because it kind of is a little unconventional, and it's definitely a lot different than my theories. So it'll be interesting to see what people think in the comments.
They're gonna go, yeah, he's crazy. Have you read that new book of his?
Yeah, have you read that sick and demented awesome book?
Sick, twisted ticket to hell.
Straight to hell you go.
Yeah, it's like it is what it is.
Hey, I think it's awesome to have that kind of imagination. That's, in fact, as we discussed, one of the reasons that I even reached out to you about doing the podcast was the fact that I'm just not a writer. I can sit there and write down all the facts, but I needed somebody to come in and make it interesting to listen to.
Some people would argue with you right now whether or not I'm a writer. It's actually crazy. One of the reviews said that it was almost uncomfortable how I got into this guy's head to get into this thought process of this main character, and it wasn't that hard at all. Some of these thoughts are things that I've thought before, so sorry.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with having an imagination.
Well, wait till I bring you a copy. You can read it, and we'll talk about it afterward.
I mean, what do you think, like Stephen King, when he's sitting there thinking of all this crazy shit that he writes. Like, what do you think? How do you think that comes out of his head? Like, it's not just something that, you know what I mean? Like, it has to be somewhere in the back of his mind, somewhere, that he had to have thought it at some point.
I don't know. How many pages is this book? Let's see. Oh God, they put some filler in there. It's like some blank pages.
Is it really?
Okay. At the very, very back.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the story itself is 140 pages. It's a novella. It's really short. But it's a 140-page long gory sex joke. That's basically this book. So
that should only, let's see, 140 pages. That should only take me about a month and a half.
It's in a category on Amazon called 2-hour reads, Scott.
Oh God. I told you I don't read very fast. That's why I like to watch videos. The picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, I don't know if I could read this in 2 hours. Whoever came up with that is a very fast reader. It's not me.
Yeah. Well,
all right, so
I don't ever actually sit down to like just read. Most of the time when I read, it's like going to bed or something like that, and it's like a half a page and I'm out cold. So
yeah, when I sit down to read a book, like I have to sit down for like 8 straight hours uninterrupted. I have to read the whole thing. So,
I have too much ADD in me.
Yeah, once I get into it, I'm into it. So I've actually called into work before,
really?
and read books. Yeah.
You know, one lady that I talked to, she told me, and this was interesting because we were discussing the same thing, that I don't read very fast. I don't read a lot of books because of it. And she, the same reason I don't watch movies, like full length, you know, hour and a half, 2 hour movies. I don't really watch a lot of those because I'm just so ADD and I get like halfway through it and I have to get up and do something. But she told me the way that she reads is she doesn't even, she scans the page and the words come into her mind as a picture, like she's watching a movie. And at the end of the book, she doesn't even remember looking at the words or looking or anything like that. All she remembers is this movie that played in her mind as she was scanning the pages. Isn't that weird?
That's not me either. And you know, I write like that. Some of the other books that I've written, not specifically Starving Zoe, which is now on the floor and I can't reach it, otherwise I'd hold it back up. But a lot of people have said that those books read like movies. And that's how I imagined them when I was writing them. Right. You know, what if this was a movie rather than a book? How would I describe the movie that's going on? So, yeah.
And the whole reason that conversation came up with her, because she told me she could read like a full-length book in like 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. No, that's...
And I was just like, I envy people like that because I would like to read more, but I have things to do.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right. So Joanna from Royce City. We went off on a really long tangent there.
We did. Thank you, Joanna.
Yeah, Joanna, thank you very much for your question.
Did I answer her question?
I think you did. I think you did. She want to know if Mike was where he was and if he was still acting. I mean, if you live in Royce City, Joanna, I'm sure you don't have to travel far to either find him or someone that knows him. So just walk outside and scream. Somebody will hear you.
Just go ask them and
see what they say. He probably lives next door to you.
God, it is Halloween time. So.
It is. Okay. All right. So
we should all dress up as Mike Etherington for Halloween.
I have a plague doctor outfit for this Halloween. I don't know. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be perfect. I'm just going to walk around wherever it is I live. I've mentioned it before. Go back and listen to the episodes. I'm not going to say it this time. I'm going to make you work for it. Walk around wherever I live. With a like a plague doctor outfit and a lantern and a cane and everything, and just gonna wander randomly.
It's gonna be like 100 degrees outside too.
Probably, yeah. Halloween in Texas, gotta love it. Okay, that is all 4 of our questions for this week. Is episode 27 Q&A of the American Justice Podcast. The episode that's coming out on Sunday, episode 28. That's it. This is it. The last one. Folks. It's going to be our opinion on what this case is all about. So,
yeah. And a little bit of a wrap up. So those people that are just joining us and halfway through the season will kind of wrap up the the main points of the story, and then we'll go into the opinion.
well, man, I would hope so, because my little recorded segment's only like 7.5 minutes long. I'm like, man, if all you're going to do is talk about yours, it's going to be a really short episode.
No, it'll probably be a regular length episode.
Yeah, and then I guess a couple of days after that will be the final video Q&A of the season.
Q&A of the season, and then and just so people know, we'll have every once in a while we'll come on with some special episodes. We're going to have some special guest hosts or guests, I should say. I've got one guy that I'm talking to right now that is one of the biggest like true crime experts that I've ever seen in my life. He's expressed an interest in coming on, so we have to figure out a time to do that. We have some other hosts of other podcasts that we're going to come on and do a little co-hosting and just talk about true crime. So anybody that's interested in just the true crime genre, not just Brandon's case, you'll have some episodes in between season 1 and season 2, and but hopefully we'll have season 2 coming to you fairly quickly.
All right. Well, then I guess that's all I have for this week. Scott, you got anything you want to go out on?
I think everybody should stay aware,
stay strong,
and get involved.
All right. We'll see you guys next week one last time.
All right.